Okay, so this Zoom video is going to give you some more information about the descriptive analytics report. Basically, what we're doing here is taking your first research proposal, and we're going to go a little bit deeper. Your research proposal proposes that you do a research study with a couple of data sets. One data set provides your independent variable, your other data set provides your dependent variable. So a lot of what you have in this descriptive analytics report will be a repeat. For example, your research questions and hypotheses, you can copy those directly from your research proposal document in week 1. The executive summary should be 300 words or less. And this is, what is it that you're doing with your project? Why are you interested in this? How are you going to go about it? What are these data sets inclusive of? So a bit different than your research proposal because we're focused more on the data here. We're taking a more laser focused approach than the first document, but you'll still have a lot of the same language here. Then we go into descriptive statistics. And so this will depend on the data that you're using. So what I want to do is show you how to get to your data and figure out what you have, and then run this descriptive statistics in Microsoft Excel. So if we took a look at the list of common data sets, here we go. You basically need to get into something, poke around, and find your data. Now, it's different for each one. So if you go into Earth data, for example, it talks about find data. You can take a look at what they have available, browse by topic. If any of this is of interest, get into it. Basically, what you're trying to find is an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file. I actually poked into the Fred St. Louis Federal Reserve data. So if I look at that, it is this one. Where did it go? Let's see. I don't know why I'm having a hard time finding that. Oh, it's right underneath. So Fred, St. Louis Fed, this has tons of data. I think it's pretty easy to work with. If you want it to look up, let's say inflation, and you search by inflation, you could pick, maybe we do this, and you can easily download an Excel file to get your data. So I think the Fred website's super easy. Here it comes. And I like the way it's formatted. So this would give you a chance to take, you'll want 2 different data sets from Fred, and then I'll show you how to put this together. So let's go ahead. I've got 2 pulled up here. Here's this one. This is home ownership rates. And here is this one. Let's see. Which is, I have 2 screens here if you wonder why I'm dragging things around. Median household income. So if I'm curious about, is there a relationship between household income and home ownership? I can pull these 2 data sets out of Fred, and then we'll take a look. Now, the first thing that we need to do is get this information on one spreadsheet. So I'm going to copy this little bit of data right here. I'm just going to, for the meantime, put it right here because our dates won't sync up necessarily. And I can get rid of this extraneous information at the top. I don't need that anymore. As far as home ownership rates go, I'm going to leave that as my column title, median household income. But I want to sync these up. So 1994, January 1st. So I can come in here. These aren't going to sync up at all because they're based on, I guess this is an annual and this is a quarterly. So it would take a little bit of manipulation to put these into an annual rate. Now you can look for that in your initial search. Just look for annual information, and then that way you don't have to sync up the dates. But for now, we're just going to assume they're the same, just for the sake of doing this, and run with it. Okay, so here I have an annual or quarterly date. And then I'm going to remove these extra column or extra rows. So this is what you want to start with. Something clean, has your date field, your 2 variables, And then we can get in here to look at descriptive statistics. Now I'm going to bounce to the bottom because I assume there's not an equal amount of rows here. So again, if you pick the right data, this won't be hard for you, but for the sake of doing this on the fly, it's going to be a bit messy. So then I want to go to data. Now, see if you have this data analysis tool pack. If you don't, go to File, Options, Add-ins, and you can add it in. You can find the analysis tool pack and add it in. You can also manage your add-ins and see if it's here. You can check this box, Analysis Tool Pack, and hit OK. Once that's in there, you can easily hit Data Analysis and tell it what you want to do. In this case, we're going to do a descriptive statistics. And hit OK. All right. So once this pops up, there we go. You'll have to tell it your input range. You can either click directly on the column or you can highlight it. However you want to do that is fine with me. But we're going to do one column at a time. So we want to look at home ownership rates. Now, the descriptive statistics isn't running any sort of advanced statistics. It's not telling you if this relates to that. It's just telling you how many of these do you have. So in this case, how many rows of home ownership rates do we have? What's the average? What's the range? That sort of thing. So we want to have labels in first row. Make sure you have your input range and put summary statistics and hit OK. All right, so this pops up a new worksheet for you. We can take these and clean it up. We don't need this many numbers after the decimal point. So we can clean that up. No more than 2 would be good. All right, once you have this information, then you can basically see the mean, which is the average, is 45.35. So we're talking about home ownership rates. The standard error 0.34, median mode. It's going to give you all this standard deviation. You can look these up to talk about skewness and kurtosis. The range, this basically gives us our range. So as far as home ownership rates, we're somewhere between 41.2 and 48.2. So it makes sense that the average is somewhere in the middle of that, 45.35. We have 37 rows, basically, is what we're looking at, rows of information. We should have 37. If we look at that, that's 37 because we have one row that's our title. So this is all you need for your descriptive statistics. It's just information about the data that you have. You want to do this for both columns. So if we do this again, we'll go to Data Analysis, Descriptive Statistics, take this out, use this column, make sure your labels and your summary statistics and hit OK. And here you go. So this is all you really need for this descriptive statistics worksheet. So let me go back to, here we go, our assignment. So this will give you descriptive statistics. You can talk about it. You can include your table. You'll see that it's a table similar to this. It's sometimes easier to just retype your numbers because this table is already formatted in the right way. You'll notice that this one isn't, let's get back to that, to the right thing. Here we go. You'll notice that this isn't quite formatted like that. It's similar, but not quite. So sometimes it's easier to just retype the numbers or copy paste the numbers into that document. So I'd learned this week, what I'd want you to do is learn more about descriptive statistics. What is it? What's it telling you? If we were to use this with a different data set, again, you'd want to make sure that it's cleaned up so that you have one row for titles and that your dates are syncing up, lining up across. You shouldn't have extraneous information at the bottom. That's going to throw you off. And you just want one column for your independent variable, one column for your dependent variable, or vice versa. In this case, maybe we want the independent or the predictor to be the income and our dependent or the outcome to be home ownership. All right, so hopefully that helps you. I'm going to show you, if you want to hang on, I'll show you just very quickly. If you wanted to do data analysis and correlation or regression, those are in here. So if we wanted to do correlation, you could put in your range. There we go. And we want labels in first row again. Make sure I did that. I think I did. And then we'll hit OK. All right, so this is all you get out of a correlation test. And it's basically telling you, are these two correlated? Now, there's a one-to-one correlation. If you look at home ownership rates versus home ownership rates, it's a perfect match. So you get a 1. If you look at the median household income and the median household income, again, that's a perfect match because we're looking at itself. So this is the only number that matters in this table for correlation. And that's letting you know, is there a correlation between home ownership rates and income? Logically, we'd say yes. Now we have information to confirm that. We say, yes, it does. In this case, that's a very high correlation. The closer we get to 1 is a high correlation. There are effect size ranges that we can provide that say, if it's this number, it's a low relationship. If it's this number, it's a medium relationship. If it's above this number, it's a high relationship. I know that's a high relationship. I'd have to pull up the effect size real quick to show you the actual numbers. So let's do that. Okay, so using this correlation interpretation document, you can see a high validity is anything above 0.5. So in our case, we had, let me find that spreadsheet again. Let's get rid of that. It's this one. We had 0.90. You'd want to also put nothing more than two digits after the decimal point. So 0.9 would be a high validity, meaning that it's a strong relationship. If it was between 0.3 and 0.5, it would be a medium or moderate relationship. If it was 0.3 or below, it's a low relationship or even a non-existent relationship if it's at 0. But in this case, logic tells us income and home ownership rates relate. Here we can know that's a high relationship actually. Now, if I wanted to go back and do this with a regression test, go back to data analysis. Let's look at regression. So the difference between correlation and regression, correlation lets you know, is there a relationship? Regression lets you know there is a relationship and can one predict the other? So in this case, we want to know, can income predict home ownership? And so you'll see I'm taking each variable separately and putting them in here, add our labels again, and hit OK. So this is your regression table output. And what this does for you is it shows, is there a relationship? And if there is a relationship, what's the significance? Now, in this case, our p-value is pretty high. We want it to be 0.05 or less. So if your p-value is 0.05 or less, then you know that there's a significant relationship. But if you remember, this data doesn't actually match up because I had quarterly dates, I had annual rates. I just threw this together. So if you did this with matching dates, you should get a better regression. In this case, we're looking at the p-value. So here you have your p-values. Those are way above 0.05. So this is telling us this isn't related, that these don't, one doesn't predict the other. If it did predict the other, we could look at, your F test, your F score. You could look at, let's see. Okay, I thought maybe that would open a little bit more, but you could look at your multiple R. There's different statistics in here. This is for a more advanced statistical class, but basically we're looking to see if it could predict what is the strength of that prediction. So using, let's use an example of income and gender and education. So if I had all of that put into one data set. So let's say if I change this and I had a data set with 3 columns and I had income, gender, education, maybe we even put ethnicity, and we wanted to predict, could education, ethnicity, or gender actually predict a certain income. I've run a study on this recently, so I know that it did for education and gender. And that way we could see, is there a difference between males and females based on income? Is there a difference between levels of education, like high school, master's degree, bachelor's degree, doctorate degree, based on income? And what we found was that there was a difference. And we could also use this table to say, if you had so many years in school, we could predict that you'd make so much more money. So having data that's actually significant would give us that ability to document that information, but you have to have the right data set for that. And this one isn't, and we don't have to do regression for this descriptive statistics. So the only thing you really need to do for the descriptive statistics is, in fact, this descriptive statistics table. The correlation and regression, those are just bonuses to give you a little more information about how this works. Okay, if you have questions, please reach out. I am looking forward to seeing your work. Have a great day.